This is QTV News. Here are the headlines. Attorney General Likando Kalaluka has denied misleading President Edgar Lungu into signing the 500 million United States dollars sovereign guarantee issued to Stag African Investments. Police in Lusaka have arrested 9 people for counterfeit production of white spoon sugar, a Zambia sugar product. The Timber Producers Association of Zambia has accused the Ministry of Lands of mismanaging the timber industry. And now is the news in detail. Attorney General Likando Kalaluka has denied misleading President Edgar Lungu into signing the 500 million United States dollars sovereign guarantee issued to Stag African Investment Limited, meant for the importation of emergency electricity by ZESCO. Mr. Kalaluka was responding to calls that he steps down from his position for misleading the president into signing the cancelled sovereign guarantee. In an exclusive interview with QTV News, Mr. Kalaluka says he is not aware of having misled President Lungu. Asked whether he would make public the legal advice rendered to prior to the signing of the deal, Mr. Kalaluka says such advice is never publicized.
A quick comment for news away from the case. There's these calls that have continued coming up that you should resign because you misled the president for the Stag deal.
I'm not aware of having misled the president.
Okay. How about also challenging you that you should publish the advice, legal advice that you...
No.
About these questions.
A quick comment for...
Opposition NDC Secretary General Mwenya Musenge has challenged Mr. Kalaluka to explain himself to the nation over the Stag African Investments loan deal, for which President Lungu signed a sovereign guarantee. Meanwhile, opposition NAREP President Elias Chipimo, who is also a lawyer, has also challenged Mr. Kalaluka to publish his written legal advice on the Stag African deal. The Constitutional Court has deferred to the 26th of June 2018 hearing on the application made by PF Secretary General Davis Mwila, asking the court to set aside or reverse its ruling that ministers who remained in office after the dissolution of Parliament in 2016 pay back the money they earned. Mr. Mwila, who is former Home Affairs Minister, has asked the court to set aside the order, saying the decision was improper, unjust, and was contrary to Article 118 and the national values and principles of human dignity, equity, and non-discrimination outlined in Article 8D of the Constitution. The hearing was scheduled to take place on the 5th of June 2018, but could not take place after the third petitioner, the Law Association of Zambia, LAS, applied for an adjournment. LAS also sought to leave of the court to file a notice of motion to raise preliminary issues and skeleton arguments to the skeleton arguments served on it by lawyers representing the second respondent. The lawyer representing the second petitioner, UPND Secretary General Stephen Katuka, had earlier sought leave to file a notice of motion to raise preliminary issue over the same skeleton arguments. Both Attorney General Likando Kalaluka and counsel representing the second respondent did not object to applications to seek leave to file a notice of motion and for an adjournment. Constitutional Court President Hilda Chibomba then adjourned the matter to the 26th of June after cautioning all parties to stick to time. Pockets of violence characterized the voting process in the Chilanga parliamentary by-election involving suspected PF and UPND cadres. Police in Chilanga received a report that people who were going to vote at a school in Kalundu area were waylaid by some suspected UPND cadres who beat them up. The same cadres later descended on the PF camp and damaged some motor vehicles belonging to PF supporters, leaving one person injured who had to be rushed to Kanyama First Level Hospital before he was referred to the UTH due to head injuries he sustained. And police spokesperson Esther Katongo says investigations have been instituted aimed at bringing the perpetrators to book. In a related development in Mundawanga, some UPND and PF officials are reported to have imported cadres to the area, which resulted in commotion. Suspected Patriotic Front cadres are also reported to have allegedly blocked people from voting at Mundawanga polling station in Chilanga ward. Confusion ensued at the polling station as suspected PF cadres drove to the entrance of Mundawanga polling station with full force, intimidating the voters. And UPPZ President Charles Chanda says his party's election agents were chased by PF cadres from polling stations. Mr. Chande has lamented that some political parties cannot allow the holding of free and fair elections.
We've just received a report from Chilanga, and some of our polling agents were literally chased by masked people in the full view of Zambia police. So they are not there in the polling stations, they are hiding in the bush. Now, we are asking, do we have a police force in Zambia? Why are we deceiving ourselves that Zambia has a police force? If people who are masked can do this and the police are powerless, is this country safe? So let's stop cheating ourselves. Even saying you have an IG, who is the IG? What is his work? If he cannot do what he's supposed to do, then it's a challenge.
Meanwhile, the Network for Young People Against Violence has described as retrogressive the violence that took place in Chilanga parliamentary by-election during voting. Executive Director Moses Kalonde says his network is concerned because the reported violence could result in the outcome of the by-election being petitioned. Mr. Kalonde has told Q News that the Zambia police must ensure that all perpetrators of purported violence are brought to book. And politician Patrick Mungo has blamed leaders of the major political parties for the violence that took place in Chilanga. Mr. Mungo is also concerned that despite the many times that stakeholders have urged the youths not to be used as tools for political violence, youths have continued engaging in the vice. He says the church should consider coming on board in dealing with the issue of political violence now that it has become clear that political leaders are not willing to bring the scourge to an end.
It's quite disappointing to find that youths today are still involving themselves in unwanted behavior, specifically the political violence, especially in Chilanga. You know, it's very disappointing. So my appeal to all the politicians, I mean the opposition party leaders as well as the ruling party leaders, including the churches, that let's play an important role. We have seen a lot of people have been condemned the escalating political violence in this country, but we cannot still see a change for the better. It's quite
9 people comprising nationals of Burundi, Congo, DR and Zambia have been arrested in Lusaka by the police for counterfeit production of white spoon sugar. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo says the 9 suspects are yet to be charged and that investigations into the matter have continued with the hope of arresting more suspects. Ms. Katongo narrates that the Zambia Police Service Intellectual Property Unit conducted an operation in Lusaka's Zanmuone West and City Market after receiving a complaint from Zambia Sugar PLC, the legitimate holders of white spoon sugar product, that their product was being counterfeited. She explains that during the operation conducted on Monday, 4th June 2018, officers raided a house in Zanmuone West and a number of wholesales at City Market where they found empty packs of 1 kg, 2 kg sugar and 378 by 50 kg empty sacks labeled with white spoon sugar, which were being used to package raw sugar and Harlet Sun sweet sugar, which is believed to have been imported from other countries and was being repacked in Zambia. Ms. Katongo says the product was later being sold in wholesales at City Market. She says officers also seized some weighing scales, ink pads, a date stamp, stitching machines and cotton, a sealing machine, 164 by 50 kg refined sugar, while some sugar was found sprayed on a tent in one of the rooms, 85 cases containing 20 packets of sugar, 31 cases by 20 packets of 1 kilogram sugar and 37 cases by 10 packets of 2 kg sugar, all suspected to be counterfeit sugar. The police spokesperson says the total value of the seized items is 126,000 kwacha, 893 16
Officers also seized some weighing scales, ink pads, a date stamp, stitching machines, cotton and sealing machines, also 164 by 50 kgs refined sugar, and they found some sugar spread on a tent in one of the rooms. 85 cases containing 20 packets of 2 kg sugar, 31 cases by 20 packets of 1 kg sugar and 37 cases by 10 packets of 2 kg sugar were also found, and all is suspected to have been counterfeit sugar. The total value of seized items is 126,893 kwacha 60 ngwe. It is suspected that the raw sugar is being smuggled into the country from other countries and was being repacked in Zambia Sugar PLC labeled packages. The product was later being sold in wholesales at City Market. 9 suspects comprising Burundese, Congolese and Zambian nationals were picked up and are yet to be charged. Investigations in the matter have continued with the hope of arresting more suspects.
The opposition UPND says it will re-engage the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, to seek further clarification on the recent revelations on Samuel Chavula, who was found in the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, restricted server room at Mulungushi International Conference Center during the 2016 general elections. This follows revelations by former PF Deputy Chairperson for Elections, Kelvin Wadia Fube, also known as KBF, that Samuel Chavula was a PF agent working under the PF Elections Committee, when the PF has always denied this. UPND Deputy Secretary General Patrick Mucheleka has since commended Mr. Bwalia for clearing the air on the mysterious Samuel Chavula. Mr. Mucheleka says Mr. Bwalia has without doubt set the record straight and in the process has vindicated UPND. He says the party wants to seek clarification why the ECZ did not give the same opportunity given to the PF, to the UPND and other political parties to similarly place their own IT specialist in the restricted ECZ server room. Islamic Council of Zambia President Sujo Zimba has encouraged the church not to listen to the destructive voices with regards to the holding of the national dialogue. Mr. Zimba says it is unfortunate that some stakeholders are already claiming that some church mother bodies are compromised and therefore cannot spearhead the process. He says the church is capable and equal to the task of spearheading such an important national undertaking. Mr. Zimba has told Q News that he is happy that both the ruling PF and the UPND have agreed to dialogue on this contentious issue.
Both parties, especially the big parties, have accepted to meet and talk about contentious issues, discuss differences, and see how we can move forward as a country, because these two are the ones that actually not making us, make progress, is because they're always arguing, always fighting, which is not good for the country. But now that they've accepted, let it go. I mean, we have to go ahead with that. The people that to be appointed, not everyone, of course, we can talk about the church, but a church can appoint one or two individuals, to see that everything is done nicely. Because remember that dialogue is about talking about everything, how you feel for the other person and also the other person how they feel for, for you. So it doesn't require too many people. It only requires serious people from UPND and PF sitting down. Of course, you expect the presidents to be there, but it's not a court. I hope that it not be taken as a constitutional court, where now they want someone to say yes, we won, or no, we lost, something like that. I think I hope that it will be done according to the principles of dialogue. If at all the people that are going to handle it are not going to do it for the public, but are going to do it for Mother Zambia, because at the end of the day, Zambia is bigger than all these politicians, bigger than we've seen politicians who've gone, who've left us.
Lusaka lawyer Jonas Zulu says there is an urgent need for the courts of law to interpret the mandate of the Financial Intelligence Center, FIC, accusing the center of releasing classified information that is not meant for public consumption. Mr. Zulu has told journalists that in accordance with the FIC Act No. 4 of 2016, the Financial Intelligence Center has no mandate to release sensitive information to the public, but rather submit such information to law enforcement agencies for follow-ups. He has noted the misunderstandings surrounding the mandate of the center, saying the only tie-breaker is for the court to interpret the mandate of the Centre in line with the Financial Intelligence Centre Act. Mr. Zulu has reiterated that the Centre has no mandate to make public sensitive information that should be treated as classified.
My reading of the Financial Intelligence Centre Act, Act number 4 of 2016, reveals to me that the Financial Intelligence Centre does not have a mandate to publish a report to the public, but it has a mandate to publish that report, a report on information collected, to law enforcement agencies. Now, I want to believe that the publishing of that report to law enforcement agencies is in line with matters that have to do with the kind of information that we're talking about. It is intelligence information, so you don't expect that it will be published in that manner. That is my opinion, and that is what I think. But I think going further, it would be good for our courts to probably make a pronouncement on what the job of the Financial Intelligence Centre ought to be, so that there is no conflict as regards what they are doing and what the law provides. And at the same time, there is no doubt in the minds of members of the society as regards what their core function would be.
The Timber Producers Association of Zambia, TEPAZ, has noted the need to revise policies relating to timber in order for the country to benefit economically. Speaking in an interview with QTV News in Osaka, TEPAZ Vice President Charles Masange feels the timber industry is being mismanaged by the Ministry of Lands, Environment and Natural Resources. Mr. Masange says if the government, through the Ministry of Lands, can deal with the hiccups in the management of the timber industry, the nation will be able to benefit from the natural resources. He says, as things stand now, the only people benefiting from this sector are the Chinese.
The best way, if I was the Minister of Lands, I would have been saying, we are appealing to all the timber producers to export timber following the Zambia Bureau of Standards timber export specifications. That's why it's dangerous for a minister who is not responsible for trade to make any pronouncement concerning trade. We expected Honorable Minister Yaluma, who is the current Minister for Trade, or even the past ministers, to be making statements on trade. While we appreciate that our Honorable Minister, Honorable Jean Kapata, is responsible for conservation of forests under Forest Department, we don't expect that the minister will go out of bounds even to talk about timber export ban. That is a jurisdiction of the Honorable Minister of Commerce.
Governance activist Leslie Chikuse says the decision by government through the Ministry of Agriculture to revert back some farmers who were on the e-voucher system to the Conventional Farmer Input Support Program (FRSP) is a serious sign of inconsistency in the government policies on agriculture. Mr. Chikuse has told Q News that the lack of policy consistency is a huge setback to turning the agricultural sector into the mainstay of the economy. He says there is need for government to be consistent with the policy implementation if it is to achieve the intended goals. Mr. Chikuse states that the current state of the economy and the policy direction the country has taken require both a fiscal discipline and consistency, which he says government has lamentably failed to demonstrate. He has called on the government to address inconsistencies in policy implementation if the performance of the national economy is to improve.
As though that was not enough, they had to remove also the agriculture minister, the one who was working very closely with Mr. Martin Mutonga for the smart, whatever they were calling it, and now also remove the finance minister. You can imagine, at one go, they removed the one that came up with the idea of the e-voucher system, that was Mr. Martin Mutonga, and appoint him as deputy cabinet, deputy from the Ministry of and then they also remove the Agriculture Minister that was working closely with Mr. Martin Mutonga, and then remove the Finance Minister. So you can imagine 3 key stakeholders that were supposed to ensure that this e-voucher system was actualized and effective, removed almost at the same time. So now we have a new Finance Minister. We have a new Agriculture Minister. We don't know whether they have replaced the Director for Smart Zambia. We don't know whether they have replaced Mr. And these people come up with a brand new idea, a brand new bad idea of now reverting back to the convention way of doing things.
Government has been called upon to come up with deliberate policies that will enable small-scale manufacturers have easy and quick access to finance. Small-scale manufacturers attending a 3-day products and financial management training organized by the Zambia Association of Manufacturers in Lusaka have bemoaned the difficulties they face in accessing finance from financial institutions in the country. More in the following report.
The manufacturing sector in Zambia accounts for about 11% of the country's gross domestic product. Growth in the sector is largely driven by the agro-processing industry and leather subsectors. The manufacturing activities in the country are undertaken by the private sector, with government playing a proactive role. Much of the private sector is comprised of small and medium enterprises whose role in the manufacturing sector cannot be overemphasized, as they greatly contribute to employment creation and economic growth. It is against this background that the Zambia Association of Manufacturers has held a 3-day training on financial and product management for small-scale manufacturers. The 3-day training has been attended by over 30 SMEs in the manufacturing sector. Various small and large-scale manufacturers use the occasion to share their successes and challenges.
Quality. The group has a penchant to maintain extremely high, good standards of quality. We match international standards. So quality is number 1 on our list. 2, affordability. We would like to reach to the masses. These are the people who consume the lower and middle income group are our market segment.
In terms of what our company has done in terms of strategic sort of initiatives is obviously to comply with those 4 Ps, but in addition it comes down to also supply chain management. As manufacturers sitting here, small scale manufacturers or aspirational manufacturers rather, supply chain management is very, very important.
For the manufacturing division of Roland Imperial Tobacco Company, our product of course is a bit different. This is consumed by adults who've made an informed decision to take the product.
And the manufacturers also use the occasion to call on government to put in place deliberate policies that will support them have easy and quick access to finances.
The alternative sources of funding can be there, but what scares us stiff is the collateral bit. We take our title deeds there, and I think before long, the same banks that don't want to help us come and get whatever it is that we have. If and only if machinery could be used as collateral, then small-scale enterprises would probably be much encouraged to borrow. Of course, the fear of being taken over by machinery owners is still stands.
NZAM, who were the organizers of the training, also re-echoed the need for banks to be flexible in their demands for what is required as collateral from SMEs in the manufacturing sector.
Borrowing in the country. I take this opportunity to reiterate that Zambia Association of Manufacturers is committed to delivering more value to all manufacturers in Zambia through the provision of various value-added services such as insurance. It is our belief that the vast array of knowledge and expertise that will be shared over the course of this training between our participants, our facilitators, and even our moderators will manifest in enhanced productivity and competitiveness of our products, of our packaging, and of our small-scale manufacturers.
It is hoped that deliberate policies to help SMEs in the manufacturing sector access loans and easy finances will be put in place to help them contribute effectively to the growth of the national economy. Nakaonga reporting for Q News in Lusaka.
The Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF, Zambia has called on various stakeholders in the country to work together in eradicating plastic pollution once and for all. WWF Zambia Head of Communications and Marketing, Enea Piri, tells QTV News that as the nation joins the rest of the world in commemorating World Environment Day, which is being commemorated under the theme Beating Plastic Pollution, it is imperative that stakeholders work together in ending this vice. Mr. Piri says plastic pollution is among the top major challenges the nation is grappling with when it comes to environmental protection, hence the need to ensure that it is addressed adequately. He says the direct impact of plastic pollution is a blockage and a flooding of drainages that result in the outbreak of diseases such as cholera. Mr. Piri believes that if stakeholders work together, it is possible to eradicate the vice of plastic pollution due to its impact on the environment.
So for WWF, this World Environment Day, I think it brings out a serious issue that the country is facing insofar as plastic pollution. We know that one of the big issues that the environment is facing in Zambia is the issue of pollution. And plastic pollution is definitely high on top of the disasters that we are facing as a nation. So it brings us back as an organization to really think back and consider what are we doing insofar as eradicating plastic pollution in this country. We know some of the big impacts of plastic pollution include, for example, flooding of our drainages, blocking of our drainages that leads to flooding, and that has perpetuated to lead to various diseases such as cholera that we've been facing. So as an organization, we're calling on different institutions to think proactively about what we can do towards eradicating plastic pollution once and for all. One of the key organizations that we're working with, for example, is Two Brothers Food Lovers Market, who have got a No Plastic Day every month. And it's a step in the right direction towards eradicating plastic in general. So as an organization, we're appealing to the government through the ZEMA, for example, to ensure that we've got the right policies in place that are curbing the issue of plastic pollution. So
Government has been called upon to give the problem of street children in the necessary attention it deserves. Generation for Change, an NGO that promotes the welfare of street kids, is concerned that despite the interventions already in place, the number of children on the streets is on the increase. Organization's founder and director, Kennedy Mumba, says his organization is of the view that government can do more to rid the streets of street kids. Mr. Mumba has told QTV News that government can, for example, engage NGOs like his who are already in the business of looking after street kids. He says Generation for Change is already offering shelter for quite a number of street kids who are homeless.
How we can deal with the street kids in the streets so that we can decongest the streets, our streets with the number of the street kids. The government can also engage us, the NGOs, in the issue of handling them. Like specifically Generation for Change gives room for street kids, those that don't have shelters and homes. We give them a room where we keep them and take care of them. And so in that way we can also help to decongest the numbers of street kids in our country. We give home to orphans and vulnerable children, those that are homeless. We rent houses. Like currently we don't have houses, we rent houses, and that's where we keep them. Yeah, so if the government want the numbers of the street kids to decongest in the streets, we are the best people they can approach, and we are the best people that can help them.
That item concludes our news at this hour. But before we go, here are the headlines once again. Attorney General Likando Kalaluka has denied misleading President Edgar Lungu into signing the $500 million sovereign guarantee issued to Stag African Investment. Police in Lusaka have arrested 9 people for counterfeit production of White Spoon Sugar, a Zambian sugar product. The Timber Producers Association of Zambia has accused the Ministry of Lands of mismanaging the timber industry. That's all for the news. Thank you so much. Pleasant viewing.